Hey everyone, I'm excited to be back for another chat with the doers and makers in my life that I've met. And one of them is the amazing Jennifer Gallagher. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, how are you?
Good. So I met Jennifer a few years ago, and Jennifer is what I call an automotive unicorn. And I'm going to have you go through your background in more detail, but you are probably one of, if not the only woman I've spoken with in detail about cars, infotainment system, the history of cars, how they work, the mechanics, the technology, and you are a wunderkind in this category. I'm going to call you that as I've gotten to know you over the last couple of years, but help folks understand in your words what you do, what your expertise is around automotive.
Oh my gosh, you flatter me.
Well, you have to try.
Gosh, I've been in this business for so long. I mean, I grew up with it talking around the dinner table, so it's always kind of been in my blood. And so I have to say, I started out my career probably like as a child. I walked through my first manufacturing plant when I was like, I think 4 or 5 years old. So I've always had a keen interest. It's always been a pillar in my life. Really enjoy, and my passion is supporting companies and guiding them through this automotive ecosystem, like long lead, sales cycles and the complexities that are involved with the specific niche of connected vehicles. Connected vehicles, we're hitting like the tip of the iceberg right now. We haven't even begun to see what the in-dash, in-vehicle experience is going to be. According to a Signal and Sense report that just came out, and the connectivity just in the vehicle is going to be worth $42 billion come 2030 to automotive companies. That's a huge chunk of change and revenue that's untapped. That's literally not even being like I said, we're at the tip of the iceberg right now. So, and we have a 15% growth rate in this area of automotive. It is going gangbusters. It is a growth area. It's exciting to be in the nucleus, in the center of this really exciting, what I call like micro space inside of this huge industry.
Okay, so there's so many things to unpack there. And I know from talking to you, we've talked and quite frankly nerded out on many of those developments. And many consumers may not realize, like when you get in your car, so I want to talk about the technology in the vehicle and that type of platform and what's changed over the years. But what's also fascinating to me is because of your deep background as well with straight up technology and interactivity and how that's woven into your automotive career now and how that all span together. Before we go deeper into trends with infotainment systems and the typical dash that most consumers just maybe use to like navigate, change the channel on, like they toggle between Sirius XM and Spotify. There's so many more things that I definitely want to unpack. How has because you've been in this for like decades. What about your background in tech and working globally, because yes, you are based in Metro Detroit, but you also have such a global footprint with brands you've worked with. And I've noticed how that just easily translates, into your current automotive experience because again, we are in a global economy. Talk to me a bit about that history in tech in general and how that's evolved your expertise and curiosity with the work you're doing now with your clients on both the supply side and it seems the OEM side for automotive.
Yeah, so my experience in tech really started out with the first telematics program back, oh gosh, in 1999. It was the answer.
Telematics.
Yeah,
That's
like what is that? Oh no. Basically, GM had put out, this new cool concierge service called like OnStar, right? And everybody was in a mad scramble all the OEMs were in a mad scramble to like sort of like, catch up and see what that was about. And so I worked on one of the first programs. It was a joint venture between Nissan and Ford. It was called Wingcast. Hardware was really the shining star at the moment back
Mhm.
when we first started out in this connectivity journey. And then it soon became, what sort of cloud connectivity do you have? And those suppliers and those companies that really had like that IoT chip to cloud roadmap and plan were those that rose to the top. That was the cream that rose to the top. Those that did not sort of fell flat and went forward with, collaborations, partnerships, and that's really where I think the West Coast started to come in to, the automotive ecosystem. Because a lot of innovation in that, in the cloud space was developed out west. I mean, you had some, and also your voice recognition engines. We were going to like natural speech and voice rec. A lot of that was out west. So that's where your California, your Seattle, all of those sort of like, that region really started to come into play.
Oh,
When you started to bring in more of a cloud platform and you
mhm.
wanted to like, OEMs were saying, "Hey, I want to bring in these awesome." Actually, it started with music streaming, okay? And so like you had the iPod that came out and you had iPad connectivity. That was a big deal back in the day. And so it was like, okay, how do we bring that experience into the vehicle? And so everything started out with audio, with sound. And so you were bringing in apps like Pandora, Spotify, and then gosh, now we need more than ever a premium audio experience. So the hardware came into play, right? So you had brands like, Alpine, you had JBL, you had Boston
Oh,
Acoustics, Bose, like all of a sudden, all of these amazing, audio systems came into play. And you had, gosh, I think we're up to, 36, 40 speakers now in a vehicle. I mean, you have a theater experience with Dolby. What's that?
36?
Yeah, like some vehicles you can have 36 or 4, like even more depending upon, configurations and whatnot. But like really, and then so now you have companies like Dolby getting interested. Okay. And so you have Dolby Atmos in a vehicle, you have Dolby Vision in a vehicle for, like a visual experience. And then you add lighting to it, right? Now you can like watch Dune and the vehicle interior of the lights, turn into like, a desert or a desert scape. Now you tie it in with your HVAC controls. And if there's a sandstorm or something, now the HVAC comes on, right? This is all while we're in park. Like, all right, this is all while we're in park,
Good,
of
yes.
course.
Good asterisk.
Safety first.
Good a
But no, so you see, like everything started out with, hey, an idea. Let's bring this cool, and back in the day, it was Pandora, Spotify. Like, let's bring these applications into the car. And now it's ushered in this whole new, and like I said, we haven't even hit the stride yet with what can be done in a vehicle. A lot of like a common myth out there is that people prefer their phones as their interface to the in-dash system, right? And to an in-dash. Now, my work in hardware and software, equal amount of years, I say that's a myth because the in-dash experience is not yet there. Consumers would use an in-dash experience if it performed and if it were optimized. You have what I call driver whiplash now. And driver whiplash is, okay, I'm in my vehicle. I'm going to go to a navigation system. Now I'm going to go to my music or CarPlay. Now I'm going to go to my music. Now I'm going to go to my climate control, right? It's constant whiplash of going in between different, not even within different applications within the vehicle, like entertainment applications, but it's like navigation versus like your music. You're also doing HVAC, right? Like that's not tied in and that's not personalized just yet. Like that, we're not there yet.
God, that drives me bonkers. It drives me because just yesterday, I was thinking about this yesterday. I was driving around town and I was, flipping. I was kind of bored of my stations. Okay, let me listen to my preset stuff on Sirius because I was on Spotify. Went to Sirius, but then I was cold. I also have an EV. So for those of you who don't have an EV, the HVAC systems in an EV work a little differently in terms of keeping you warm while conserving the battery. That's a whole separate conversation about how I played Jenga with heat off, use my seat heater to conserve energy, but getting it to the right level. But you're right that I don't want my phone to be the experience. I want it to be the dash. And I think that expectation is huge. And something you said earlier in the combo, I think, is resonating with me so much. And, again, disclosure, my mom worked for GM for like, about 3 decades. So it just felt like I should disclose that. I think about her work. She was a legal assistant, she was an engineering assistant, and she was always coming home with boxes of papers. And what you said earlier about the rise of software and IoT on the West Coast, Seattle and Cali, and what's happening there, and then the hardware and systems, not just in Detroit, but folks like Dolby and Bose. But what you're introducing to me is an interesting way that no one's, in my opinion, from what I've read, I've seen, that is more of this gelling of 2 different regions. I think it hasn't been discussed enough, in my opinion, about the way that different regions that do different things well can work together to solve a consumer problem. Talk more about that, especially with your travels, because 'cause you're everywhere and seeing all of the things.
Right. So there's 2 okay, so it's like 1 plus 1 equals 2, okay?
Mhm,
That's how I see it. When we're talking about the driver whiplash that I just discussed,
mhm,
out west where we innovate, new technology, new service offerings, right, to consumers, they have a firm grasp of the art of the possible, okay? There is to a consumer, to a general consumer, to the world, okay? The art of the possible is so very important when you're trying to differentiate, when you're differentiating your brand, when you're creating new and unique experiences and customer journeys. So that's pivotal. On the other side of that coin is safety, driver safety. Okay. More apps, more experiences don't always equal better.
mhm.
From Detroit, we have a firm understanding of safety regulations, understanding driver distraction. We know in the automotive space, whether you're in Detroit, whether you're in Stuttgart, or if you're in Tokyo, it doesn't matter. If you are in the automotive space, you have a firm understanding of driver distraction, driver safety, fatigue, right? You understand the demographic of your consumer, also the mindset of a vehicle owner, okay, owning that vehicle is very different from, say, a smartphone owner. Okay. Two can be, they live together like almost all of vehicle owners own a smartphone. But the thing is, those unique brands, like if, like your mom, like let's say a GM Chevrolet owner, okay, or EV owner, take the smartphone. What do they want as far as applications in their vehicle? Let's talk about EVs for a second, right? That's going to be very different than, say, I don't know, somebody who's driving a McLaren, like a premium luxury brand, right? So more apps don't always equal better. You have to tune it to that driver consumer and that brand, right? So the expertise that is in OEM is really understanding that driver safety. And so if you don't have both of those, what I'm going to talk on the negative for a second. What happens is brand erosion. Okay. So what you're seeing right now is you see a lot of disparate applications in the vehicle, right? You see like your Spotify is, separate from, maybe your navigation and whatnot. Everything's very separated, right? Everything's very partitioned. That user experience is very fatiguing, right? More apps don't equal a better experience. They have to be tailored for that user, whether it's in, electric vehicle owner, whether it's, a Toyota owner versus a General Motors brand owner versus like we could even get into makes and models, right? Also, traditionally in the past, OEMs have differentiated based on screen size. They
Hmm,
love to put big hardware in there, right? Like they
yeah.
love to put it like you see now, like, dashes that have screens that go all the way across, right? But you still see that sort of antiquated user interface that's very fatiguing, right? You don't see that step level in improvement, right? You don't see those entertainment hubs and things like that. Like there's a company, 3SS, that has an entertainment hub that's just like amazing. That's a mashup and has OEM content in there, has news in there, has like long and short form content. It's all contained and it presents itself like what you see in your smart TV or a smartphone, your phone. So what I'm saying is that like the innovation between East and West, okay, so, like, if we wanna call it East and West, like you were talking about regions. Detroit, very firm understanding of the safety side and the value proposition of what makes sense to their consumers in the vehicle versus the art of the possible and ideation and innovation coming from, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Seattle, like those markets, even Texas. That's where the merge and where like the peanut butter and jelly sandwich is made, right?
I think it's key, and if people who are watching this, because I will also admit, I was very not happy when I saw so many jobs and positions in software that were leaving Detroit proper recently. Like, I think it was this year, right? I think it was this
Yeah.
year, a
Yeah.
bunch of left the tech center. But as I reflected for myself and took a step back with, "Okay, what in the world is going on?" That's when I started quietly doing my reading, knowing your skill set assisted with realizing, all right, what is needed? Who's got the skill set? I'm not saying that Detroit doesn't have the skill set in software. Like, please don't, come after me. However, being in a different part of technology for the last 20 some years in digital marketing and seeing the growth of Silicon Valley in that way, I get where a lot of the innovation may stem from a Seattle or a Cali, a Mountain View when it comes to software related things. And I've relaxed a bit in terms of what do we do well? What do others do well? Now, something I want to explore with you that is a big passion of mine, and you talked a bit about brand erosion. You talked about the experience in the car. We're going to go there, and there you might be some tough questions that I ask you, but you've been doing this for so long. And I'm a mom. You're a mom. We're both ladies. I feel as if the the manufacturers in whole are trying to get the utility and the needs of women in cars with what I'm looking for, how my purse is, placed, my bags and whatnot, but we're not there yet. And then when you take it another notch with the infotainment system, I would bet that folks who might see clips or this whole entire interview don't even realize what is being developed and popping in that infotainment system. So now, as a woman and a mother, my mind is spinning with, okay, I want this and this, this, and then I want the cabin to be designed like this. And I want you to somehow be able to have my infotainment system speak to the area where I put my bag. Like, that's where my mind is going. Do you have any insight or experiences with how that user-centric experience, whether it's a man or woman, in vehicles, how it is now? Any clue as to where you think it's going? Because we spend I forgot that there's a stat about how much time we spend in our cars.
Hmm.
Talk about that, about what your thoughts are, whether it's, professionally or as a user. I know we've made some innovations with utility, but it's annoying to me that I personally don't think we're there yet. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. No, no, we're still, like I said, we're still mid stride, right? Like we're still, in my opinion, we're walking, right? We're not quite running yet. Yeah. So I really think that discoverability of features in the vehicle isn't there, right? Like you can purchase a vehicle and own it and not even know what it's equipped with. Like, oh, it has like, specialized audio features or it has HBO Max or whatnot. It's like, oh, I've got to go to the Play Store and there's a lot of involvement on the consumer side that, really we should take that noise that noise needs to be removed. Okay. The noise needs to be removed. It needs to become more intuitive in the car. Like, right, it needs to be, as intuitive as the cup holders, right? Like everybody wants to know how many cup holders the car has. Well, one of those like really coming at you, very obvious features, right? So discoverability, and really the excavation of like what the cool features are, right? What's cool. Also, productivity. Like, hey, like let's start integrating. I think if I were to, make some predictions, I think we're going to have a lot of universal content aggregation. That's my first thing that I think of. It's basically access to all metadata that's across all platforms, right? So when you use your voice, recognition system and you ask for information on something, whether it's an event, a vehicle feature, whatever, your vehicle will scan metadata across radio broadcasts, YouTube shorts, BBC broadcasts, right? Like the OEM websites, right? Like it'll scour everything to bring you the most relevant answer to your question, right? And that's where AI comes into play, is really delivering content and feature discovery that's relevant to you, right? That's of value to you. So I really think that, that dovetails into contextual intelligence, understanding user behavior. What is your user behavior? What can we do in the area of predictive AI that can kind of like give you suggestions and, kind of anticipate what your needs might be, right? When you are entering the vehicle, right? When I enter a vehicle and I'm getting ready to go on a drive, I want it to merge my calendar information, my phone book, where I usually go at this time. If it's like, on my drive commute to work to Starbucks, it's rerouting me. It's also ordering my coffee for me. I don't have to really do anything. My third party payments are integrated. So like, really, it's just a yes, no answer. Hey, do you want this order, this coffee on your way to work? Yes, you will make it on time, based on, if you order ahead, you should make it to work on time, given traffic conditions and snow and weather, and everything's merged together, right? So, and at the same time, it's a very unified interface. Okay. So like, let's go from contextual intelligence over to a unified interface, that UI that's in your dash. Let's make it intuitive. Let's make it so that it's something that you want to use as a consumer and you're not looking at your smartphone, right? Like, really. And at the end of the day, you shouldn't be looking at your smartphone because it should be voice first.
Everything you're saying is such a wish list for me because now, again, we live in Metro Detroit. Traffic can be gnarly. But having lived in Chicago for 20 years, it's still Chicago traffic is worse. But on top of that, the 405 traffic is worse in LA. And Atlanta traffic is bad too. My point is, we're spending so much time in cars. To your point, imagine if your car experience replicates your life. So yes, you're stuck on the 405, you're stuck on 94, you're stuck on the 290 in Chicagoland, and you're stuck. I would love the ability to have the Jetsons-like experience of being in my car. Quick case in point, you mentioned not knowing features in your car. Jennifer, I just found because I have an EV, as I mentioned, the one that I have does not have all-wheel drive, it's front-wheel drive. So I just found the button that is the ice snow button. I'm like, oh, there's an ice dip, but I have to go into, driving condition. Oh, sport. I don't want sport. I just found that the other day. So that was funny. But I would love to be in my car and I'm stuck in traffic, like what you just said, and do the following scenario. I'm currently a Panera Club member, right? So in the Panera Club, you spend a certain amount per month, you get unlimited coffee, tea, drinks, whatever. Would love to be in my car and the car to say, hey, guess what? Could you use a coffee? You've been driving for 2.5 hours and there's a big traffic jam ahead of you. You're going to be stuck on 75 going up north. Do you want a coffee? There's a Panera coming up. I can get one ordered for you, or a Starbucks. Or if the car and the GM database knew I'm a mom with 2 kids and a dog and a husband, they know I'm a family of 4. If I can get in the car and say, road trip, I'm going on a road trip and I'm going to Canada, it's going to be 6 hours with charging. How amazing would it be for my vehicle to we just saw a Disney movie last night. So I'm thinking about it's a spaceship and it's just, I'm on this, this spaceship journey. Remember Little Einsteins?
Yes.
Okay. I want that experience on my road trip and the car to talk to me. This restaurant's coming up. Do you need a bathroom break? Does one of the kids need a bathroom break? Or for me to say, okay, what's the top of the hour news right now? And I can get it on like news radio, like AM radio. But to your point, if like, oh, what was that? If I want to go deeper, to say to the car, hey, I call my car the Silver Fox. Hey, Silver Fox, read me more articles about this. And then have it, like you said,
Yeah.
connect.
All the
We
metadata.
could
Yep.
make the car ride so enjoyable. And the creme de la creme, you talked about this once the other day and it made me giggle because I've been there. Talk to me about Zoom calls in a car and what we have and what we don't have,
Yeah.
or go to
Well,
meeting or whatever.
and I want to even like before we dive into that, I want to circle back on something that you were talking about. Like if you're, you know, stuck in traffic, the family situation. You have return to work, right? So a lot of people are working in office now. If you're both if you and your partner, let's say you have a partner, if you're single parent raising children, you're not going to make it to school pickup or you're not going to make it to, get them to their soccer game or safely and whatnot. And you have no backup, right? You have no one to call, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Wouldn't it be great if the vehicle, because you're using navigation, the vehicle knows you're not going to reach your destination in time because it is merged with your family calendar? Okay. If the vehicle were to ask you, would you like me to order you a child Uber?
Wow,
Yeah.
wow.
There you go. That's value driven applications that I'm talking about. That's value. That's pushing, lowering
Holy smoke.
stress. That's a brand. That is a brand that is adding at value to your life and bringing your stress level and anxiety down, right?
And it's so funny you say that. I swear, I just watched a video this morning about today's working mother is spending more time parenting than the 1980s working mother just because of societal expectations. And I'm not saying this is
Mhm.
my kid per se, but they're saying that as working moms, you're keeping it all together at work and running the thing and doing the thing, but also almost at a full clip rate. Kids are in piano lessons, college essay coaches, whatever it may be, to maximize their ability and all the opportunities for them as much as you can, because that's whatever societal's expectations.
Mhm.
And working moms are technically not supposed to crack. And there's things that working moms might do, like a cheat that's behind the scenes that no one knows, a la like a child Uber. I don't know if Uber is listening or watching this.
Or Lyft or whomever,
You
right?
never a call because
Whomever.
she knows a bunch of suppliers. That I mean, that's it. This is where look, I've been involved in the car industry, not like I interned at GM filing papers one summer. I worked at on Corvette Quarterly. So I was tangentially there, never in the thick of it per se, until I got more into my experience as an EV owner. So that's kind of where it was fun for me to blend my techie background in this robotic car. But I gotta say, what excites me more is the stuff that you've been talking about. The way that this vehicle can make road trips more fun. Like we don't have an RV. We talked about maybe one day, do we rent an RV, go across the country? Of course, that's bigger space and it's a different use case than a regular car. But I would love for my car to serve a purpose to provide, even if it was me and a gal pal driving across the country or going out to dinner. I would love for to get in the car with a girlfriend. We're going to dinner and it says to me, "Hey, you know what? It's really cold outside and there's a wicked traffic accident on XYZ road. I have a suggestion. Your reservations are at 7. Would you like me to call them and tell them you're
Mhm.
gonna be an hour late? And then here's a place you guys can detour for 10 minutes and have a glass of wine or something and avoid the whatever it is." Now, on the flip side, I wanna ask you about this because folks might be inquiring and thinking it's too big brother-ish.
Mm.
You
Yeah.
know, what is it and what is the comfort level that you think consumers will have with you mentioned the word myth earlier. Let's talk about myths. Let's talk about the myths of how much technology and apps and devices do know about us right now. And what would be that step change if the car and the infotainment system was to replicate that or just have the data transferred over to them, over to it to know just as much about us. Do you think that would worry people or do you think that they would be accustomed to that data and knowledge transfer amongst devices?
Yeah. Again, I highly recommend the Signal and Sense report. Yeah. It's again another myth that people fear Big Brother and, sharing their data and whatnot. Let's snap it into context. I think, peeling the onion or taking a layer off of that. People are open to it as long as it's helpful and not intrusive into their lives, right? Where it's kind of like, ooh, like there's a fear of something, right? If it's helpful, if it's somehow adding value, it's a surprise and delight a lot of times. For example, if I'm using Alexa voice at home and I ask Alexa, hey, I need to buy a new pair of jeans. How much are the Banana Republic XYZ jean, right? And you just kind of take a look at that. If that's shared with the vehicle, right? And let's say you're on your way to an event. Navigation system, is on. There's a Banana Republic retail store. Okay. Hey, those jeans that you were interested in, you can pick them up prepackaged right now, half off, 50% off. If you go into the retail store at, Somerset Mall or whatever, right? It gives that, and then you can just say, yep, pay for it. Like, and the
So third party,
transaction's
third
done
party,
like via American Express or Visa or whatever through the vehicle, right? Through a third
right,
party
third party.
payment system, right? You go, you pick it up. What happens is it drives traffic to retail stores. It keeps our retail stores, our brick and mortar stores open, right? It drives traffic there. So that's a benefit to, retailers. And you're getting a great deal on a pair of jeans. And then while you're there, maybe you see something else that you want to pick up and you have time. The thing is, you're giving people their time back to be more productive, right? I'm not making an extra special trip to go to the mall to pick up, or I'm not spending time online researching and whatnot. It's all right there. It's on your way, right? It's a value and convenience play, right? But, and it's not necessarily intrusive to the point where it's like, if you decide you want to share your data with your vehicle, right? Your home data through Alexa with your vehicle, like it can be helpful to you, can be a concierge for you, right? So that's just an example, like of in a retail sense of it being helpful.
Because I joke with my kids who aren't big fans of AI at all. I joke that, different AI tools I use is essentially my intern. It's my intern in terms of research, workflows, and what you're describing is another example of that intern in a way of giving you that time back and being more productive to do other things because it knows that you're going to be there, ahead of time. You've got time. And then to add a layer to what you just said, I'm trying to envision where the banana store is at the mall. But let's say the systems talk to each other, and I'm driving and it says, "Hey, before your event or before you get to this destination to watch the movie or whatever it may be, the jeans are half off." And let's say Banana has a partnership with, I don't know, Starbucks, and says, "Get the jeans for half off, and through our partnership, because you do this, you especially get a free Java on us." Get a free go pick up your jeans, go get a coffee before the movie, enjoy, it's on us, have a great day. But then add another layer in that sucker to your point. Let's say I fed in my Alexa query into the infotainment system or the car, and it knows my calendar. Holy cannoli. That's my phrase of the week, by the way, holy cannoli. Then it knows, "Oh, by the way, your son's birthday is next week, and you did some searches on Amazon for these Legos. After you pick up your jeans for half off, if you want, through our partnership with Lego, you can roll into the Lego store down the way and pick up this set." That would be killer.
Hmm. Yeah,
I'm just
absolutely.
thinking of layers and layers of partnership, and we all know that, brick and mortar is having a hard time right now with
Absolutely.
getting the physicality, going to and fro. That is really interesting, and I think that are you seeing so let's now talk about, like, without obviously revealing, IP, too much information there, but are you reading and seeing conversations and inquiries from traditional consumer brands that people may not think about and them having the conversations with the suppliers and the OEMs? Are you seeing the Banana Republics, not saying them specifically, but are you seeing more everyday brands that we consume, whether it's the coffee, the PB&J sandwich, trying to figure out ways to connect with automotive companies?
Yeah, so in my world we call them developers or content partners, right? So yeah. There is, gosh, There is interest. There are conversations. There are definite conversations. What we're confronted with, the challenges that we're confronted with is, I hate to say it, it's the Wild West. It's undiscovered territory. It's the Yukon. We think gold is there. Okay. So developers and content partners, they think, okay, two fundamental questions that they have, right? Am I going to get new users? Do I get new users through doing this? Okay.
Yeah.
Or do I get different usage?
Yeah.
Okay. And that right there is a very important question, two questions to answer, right? Like like I said, it's undiscovered territory. It's a big test. Okay. It's a huge test. Okay. What sort of usage will you get in the car? Because the car is a totally different mechanism, right? It's a different vehicle, right? It's a different it's a different modality than a phone. It's a totally different modality. And then secondarily, the automotive market, what we manufacture and produce as far as volumes pales in comparison to the smartphone like world. You got to question what sort of volume is there? How many users are really there? Okay. So like there's the vehicle owner and then there's users. Okay. So like vehicle owner might be you, but the users are also your children and, like whomever is in the
Oh, that's
vehicle.
interesting.
Okay. So like, and then also there's like, like what I call, like, there's also like transference. Like if you come in, like if like you and I are in a vehicle together and we're in your vehicle, wouldn't it be awesome if my profile automatically loaded to your vehicle and like we could get, and it would take a look, like AI can take a look at like the music that we both listen to on our playlists, let's say.
Wow.
And then it can offer that road trip playlist that you and I are both going to really enjoy. Okay. So those are all users, right? Those are all users. And those are all different ways that our behavior, when I was talking about contextual intelligence, when you say I'm going on a road trip, if the vehicle asks you with who, right? With my two children, that are, 10 and 14 and my best girlfriend. And okay, would you like to upload their profiles? And then also like to get back to your point earlier, there is a whole area that's been untapped of productivity tools. Okay. The Zoom call that you referred to earlier, right? The Zoom call. So it's like we're on the road trip. And because now we have what we call in the industry is called third screen, it's the passenger screen. Like I can be on a Zoom call while you're driving, the two in the back can actually bring in their devices, okay? And if they're connected to the vehicle, like, the brand app, they're in the brand application hub, entertainment hub, you can command and control the content that they see, that they bring in, even if you bring in your own device, which is just amazing. Like you can bring in tablets and like if it's connected to the vehicle, you can actually through the center stack command and control what they see, right? And do parental controls. That aside, I'm on a Zoom call, right? And now, like I said, through all this new audio technology, we have zones, right? We have audio zones. I have my audio zone to do my calls, and the kids in the back have their audio zones watching cats and watching Transformers, right? Like, cats on YouTube versus Transformers. I'm on my Zoom call. I finish, and one of your children says, "Hey, I want you to see this funny, thing about cats from YouTube." They can just swipe it and throw it up. I can accept the content, and I'm watching Cats now with your 10-year-old. So it's all of those types of things. And also, it's like your calendar's integrated. So it's like I knew I had a Zoom call, right? And like I said, really the vehicle, I heard once that someone said the vehicle's turning into the living room. Somebody augmented that for me, or, not too long ago, and said, it's not just the living room, it's the home office. It's like your third space. It's the third space.
And even cooler, if 'cause you said there's, owners and there's users. If the auto companies also knew, or if my car knew that I am a, 25-minute commuter. Like if I just, putz around because I work from home and maybe I'll jaunt to my parents' house 24 minutes away from me. If they knew that I was that kind of person versus I am commuting from Detroit to Auburn Hills, that's a different type of experience, a different type of route and needs along the way. If they knew that too, then it'll also classify my experience differently in the car. And I love that you mentioned if like two gal pals went on a road trip. And again, I work in the marketing space. What came to mind immediately was guy picking up a gal on a date.
Mm.
A commercial in my head. Car companies, if you make this, give me the credit. But there's a date that's happening and it's the first date.
Date
And
mode. I love it. Date mode.
And then he can either, like, ask permission for her playlist, and it can merge, and the next thing you know, they both like Steely Dan, or maybe he doesn't have her playlist, and he just wants to woo her with whatever. But I love that idea because people already follow each other on Spotify. People share their playlists, so that's not intrusive. People do it anyway. Why not have that? Because there is something intimate even, when you get to know somebody as friends and you go to dinner and you take turns driving, there is something so intimate about a new person, even platonic friend or distant relative, being in the car.
Mhm.
I'm very much like, okay, what is there? Was there a mess? Let me get, my glass cleaner. And they sit there, and it's kind of like first impressions at a restaurant. How lovely would it be of have a seat in my heated seat, and here's your third screen, and enjoy whatever you need. Take your Zoom call, watch episodes of Arrested Development. We don't need to talk. And then that also from an Uber or Lyft driver perspective. How
Mm.
interesting is that? If the car companies merge with Uber and Lyft to offer those experiences to passengers, because it is, even in a taxi cab, it is so awkward sometimes. I don't want to talk to the person, just want to get to the place. It's an awkward silence. And then you have that screen in front of you, sometimes in the back,
Mhm.
that, is like an episode of Jeopardy that plays 20 times over. Oh, this is
Yeah,
so
and that's valuable real estate, and that's also, like, that's monetizable. So, like, okay, we wanna offer all of these all this stuff, right? But you've gotta be able to monetize it somehow, right? It's gotta be paid for because,
Yes.
like, I'll say this, part of the issue, a challenge for content partners or developers is keeping their software, their applications up to date. So, there's a whole cost structure involved with maintaining an app in the for the vehicle, for the car. Okay. So like part of it is I think we need like consumers are so used to having everything offered for virtually free. Nothing's really free. You're paying for it somehow. Okay. We'll just
Yes.
say it's being paid for somehow. That's a struggle. Okay, that's a real struggle for automotive OEMs is like, okay, how do we monetize this? How do we even just like break even on this, right? And so, in your example of Uber or Lyft, I would believe that if I could use that backseat screen to have a call, to do something where I'm not on this smartphone, a lot of people, I'm going to dive into that in a second. I would entertain, 15 seconds of ad time, like, during the ride. I'd watch an ad just so that I can use that screen. Because here's what, how many people all right, I'm gonna reveal a dirty secret about myself, okay? All right, a guilty pleasure. I started watching on Netflix Peaky Blinders, okay? Started getting into that show, which actually you need to watch with intention. Now, I was a passive watcher, okay? I passively watch because what am I doing? I'm on my phone. I dual screen
We
every
do.
I
I do it
don't
all.
know anyone who doesn't dual screen nowadays, where you're on your phone doing one thing, but, like, you have another screen going where you're doing something else, where there's a passive it's what I call a active and a passive screen, right?
Yes.
So if you're in the back seat of an Uber or Lyft, it would be cool to have an active screen, a passive screen. You know what I mean? Like that both have value. You know what I mean? Like that. Yeah, I agree with you. That that would be very cool. We'll
It
work
makes
on that.
Get to it, Jennifer, get to it. Well, it makes me sad at myself because I even noticed it 'cause I'm trying to be better with my kids. We'll watch something on Netflix or Prime, and if there is an ad break, because we have our Netflix, like, through, like, our T-Mobile account. So we just, it's paid for through T-Mobile, and it's got the ads, whatever. But I just inherently notice when there's a 30-second commercial break, I'm looking at my phone. I'm looking at my phone versus just sitting for 30 seconds without looking at something. And that's a whole other separate issue about attention and phones, but the intro to what you mentioned, active versus passive screen, I think is huge because we all do that. We all
Mhm,
do. And I don't think people realize how often, iPhone can, or, can tell you how often you pick up your phone throughout the day.
mhm.
That's that's crazy. Well, as we kind of close this out, this has been amazing in terms of looking at trends, understanding what you're seeing with infotainment, connectivity in vehicles. It sounds like we're scratching the surface still, which is kind of exciting. But I'd love to close out with your thoughts on, we touched about this before. There's the West Coast, there's the Midwest, there's Europe, there's Asia. We are in this global economy. What's the best way to ask this? Do you think there's a race of some sort? Is there, I mean, of course, competition's always good. Competition's always good. But at the end of the day, I want the consumers to win, to have that utility. How do you think we're doing from a global ecosystem of developing the right things, partnerships, whether it's software and hardware for the consumer? Do you think we've got some sense of uniformity regarding standardization of what's expected? Or are you still seeing from a global perspective, are some regions ahead of others when it comes to certain things like hardware or safety? Do you think that Detroit specifically has some work cut out for itself compared to our European or Asian counterparts as it relates to the configuration of the car for consumers? What are your thoughts in general about the global way we touch each other and the way that innovation happens globally around automotive with everything we discussed with technology and infotainment specifically and connectivity?
Wow, that's a big
I
question.
know it's a doozy.
One. Okay. So here's my take. I think it boils down a lot to culture. I think it talks culture and consumers. Okay. And what consumers are, what their tastes and affinities are for. So I will say this, early adopters, those that will, have an appetite for the new is definitely China. I'll say that. I'll say that. There is a hunger for the new, the transformative. Definitely, I would put them at the forefront of early adoption. With Europe, not far behind. I mean, I see a lot of European brands adopting in vehicle gaming, for example. They've also enabled, I think, and don't quote me on this. Like, don't come at me. I wanna say that they have autonomous drive up to 65 or 70 miles an hour now, where you can watch long form content. When I say long form, like a movie,
Mhm.
you can have, like, content running in the front seat of the vehicle. And North America is a bit pragmatic, okay? Very pragmatic. There have been some misfires here, with spearheading certain infotainment systems or and whatnot. And so I think there is a culture of just being pragmatic and safety. That driver safety is just paramount. So, and not saying that the other regions are not. Just saying that I think that's like a guiding principle. Like if I were to say like there was a guiding principle, I would say that in North America there's a guiding principle for driver safety.
Got it.
And also, like, it does have to do with taste of the consumer. I'm not gonna discount that either. So here, in North America, I think we need to, take into account what those consumer tastes are. It's like I mentioned earlier. It has to be in North America, it has to be of value. You can't shove a bunch of apps at a consumer in a clunky. It has to be cohesive, it has to make sense, and it has to be of value. North American consumers are very discriminating in their taste. Okay, they're very discriminating. So, like, and it has to be intuitive. Like, I hate to say it. Do you remember when AC, like when vehicles used to have those big sliders? When you slide it this way, it's cold. When you slide it this way, it's warm, or whatever. That's what we have to get back to. It has to be super, just easy, and not even physical, just with your voice.
But that visual right there, oh my gosh, it hits it on the head because I remember getting into my father's that Pontiac 6000 LE. It was like this rectangle car. I remember we'd fight over the slider. And this is definitely a combo for another day, but I am watching 'cause I did read that Waymo is coming to Detroit. So
No.
we'll be watching how Waymo does here in the D. Jennifer Gallagher of Mock BD, thank you so much for this has been such a fun conversation. I can't believe we're almost done because I could talk to you all day
Great.
about
Thanks for having me.
this is fantastic. Folks can get a hold of you. I will put your email and info here as well. But do you have any, final thoughts for suppliers or OEMs looking to make connections and how you can work with either side within this connected space?
Absolutely. The way that we're going to succeed going forward in, 2026 and beyond is all through partnerships and collaboration. There is no longer competition, it's co-opetition. And so being at the apex of sort of like electric vehicle, autonomous and connected mobility, I'm at the apex of that. So if anybody is looking for resources, support, anything like that, I'd be happy to work with and connect them and plug them into the right decision makers and whatnot and the right conversations leading going into this new age of, connected mobility.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Well, thank you. This was great. Thank you for having me on.
For sure.
All right.